Christmas Eve, 2023. My family threw me out with nothing but the clothes on my back. But at midnight, when that knock came at my door, they discovered I wasn't the worthless daughter they thought I was. I was their worst nightmare. Christmas Eve, 2023. My family threw me out with nothing but the clothes on my back. But at midnight, when that knock came at my door, they discovered I wasn't the worthless daughter they thought I was. I was their worst nightmare. I'm Olivia, and this is the story of how one Christmas Eve changed everything, and how my family's greed led to their ultimate destruction. Picture this, a mansion in Beverly Hills, decorated like something out of a luxury magazine. 20-foot Christmas tree dripping with Swarovski crystals, designer wreaths on every door, and enough twinkling lights to power a small city. This was the Carter family estate, where I'd lived my entire 25 years as the forgotten daughter. My stepmother Victoria stood at the marble fireplace in her $5,000 Valentino dress, her perfectly manicured nails wrapped around a crystal champagne flute. Her biological children, my half-siblings Marcus and Isabella, lounged on the Italian leather sofa, designer shopping bags scattered around them like expensive confetti. "Olivia, darling," Victoria's voice dripped with fake sweetness, "we need to have a little chat." I looked up from the corner where I'd been sitting, still in my work uniform from the diner where I'd been pulling double shifts to save money for nursing school. While my siblings got everything handed to them, I'd been working since I was 16, invisible in my own home. Dad, my biological father, sat silent in his wingback chair, not even looking at me. After Mom died when I was 8, he'd remarried Victoria within a year, and I'd become nothing more than an unwanted reminder of his past. "What's this about?" I asked, though something cold was already settling in my stomach. Victoria smiled, but it was sharp as a blade. "Well, sweetheart, we've been thinking. You're 25 now, practically ancient, and still living at home like a child. It's time you learned some independence." Marcus snickered from the couch. "Yeah, Liv. Time to stop being a leech." Isabella, busy counting the cash in her new Hermes wallet, a Christmas gift worth more than I made in 3 months, didn't even look up. Honestly, it's embarrassing having her here when my friends come over. "She smells like French fries." But it was Victoria's next words that shattered my world. "So we've decided. Tonight, after Christmas Eve dinner, you'll be moving out. Permanently." The room went deadly quiet except for the crackling fireplace. "Moving out?" I whispered. "Where exactly am I supposed to go?" "That's not our problem anymore," Victoria said, examining her reflection in her phone camera. "You're an adult. Figure it out." I looked desperately at Dad. "Please. You can't be serious. It's Christmas Eve. It's freezing outside." For the first time all evening, he spoke. His voice was flat, emotionless. "Victoria's right. You need to learn responsibility. This house isn't a charity." The irony was suffocating. Charity? I'd been paying them rent from my diner wages for 2 years while Marcus lived here rent-free, burning through his trust fund on designer clothes and expensive cars. Isabella had never worked a day in her life, yet somehow I was the burden. "You have 30 minutes to pack whatever you can carry," Victoria announced, already turning away. "Security will escort you out after that." That's when I realized this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. This was planned. Calculated. They'd waited until Christmas Eve on purpose, knowing I'd have nowhere to go, knowing it would hurt the most. But what they didn't know was that I'd been hiding something. Something that was about to change all our lives forever. I went to my room, the smallest bedroom in a house with 12 rooms, and packed my essentials into a worn duffel bag. Photos of my mother, my nursing school textbooks, and the mysterious envelope that had arrived for me 3 weeks ago. An envelope I hadn't opened yet, addressed from Blackstone and Associates law firm. 28 minutes later, I was standing on the front steps of my childhood home, watching Marcus lock the door behind me with obvious glee. "Don't come crawling back," he called through the glass. "We're changing the locks tomorrow anyway." I walked down the circular driveway, past the fountain that cost more than most people's cars, carrying everything I owned in one bag. The December air cut through my thin jacket like ice, and I had exactly $847 in my bank account. But I wasn't defeated. Because as I reached the street, I finally tore open that envelope from the lawyers. The words on the legal documents made me stop breathing. Final reading of the last will and testament of Eleanor Catherine Morrison, my maternal grandmother. The woman my father had forbidden me from seeing after he remarried, claiming she was too difficult and would fill my head with nonsense. The grandmother who died 6 months ago, and whose funeral Dad said I couldn't attend because I had to work. My hand shook as I read further. To my beloved granddaughter, Olivia Catherine Carter, I leave my entire estate, including all properties, investments, and personal assets, totaling approximately $57 million. $57 million. I sank onto a nearby bench, the paper fluttering in my frozen fingers. Grandmother Eleanor, the Eleanor Morrison, founder of Morrison Industries, one of the largest textile companies on the West Coast. The woman my father had painted as a bitter old lady was actually worth nearly $60 million. And she'd left it all to me. The letter continued, "Olivia, my darling girl, if you're reading this, it means your father never told you about our family's wealth. I've been watching from afar, seeing how they treat you, and my heart breaks. This inheritance comes with conditions. You must be 25 years old and living independently from the Carter family to claim it. Use this gift to build the life you deserve." Living independently. As of 30 minutes ago, I definitely qualified for that. With shaking fingers, I called the number on the letterhead. Blackstone and Associates, emergency line. "This is Olivia Carter. I need to speak with someone about Eleanor Morrison's estate. It's urgent. Miss Carter. We've been trying to reach you for months. Can you come to our office tomorrow? There are documents to sign." I looked back at the mansion where warm light spilled from every window, where my family was probably celebrating my departure over champagne and caviar. "Actually," I said, a plan forming in my mind, "is there any way someone could come to me tonight? I have a feeling tomorrow might be complicated." 2 hours later, I was sitting in a 24-hour diner across town, signing papers that would change my life forever. The lawyer, Mr. Blackstone himself, had driven out personally when I explained my situation. "Your grandmother left very specific instructions," he said, sliding document after document across the sticky table. "She knew your father's character, unfortunately. She'd been setting this up for years." "Why didn't she ever contact me directly?" I asked, still struggling to process everything. "She tried. Your father threatened legal action if she came near you. But she never stopped watching over you, Miss Carter. She knew what kind of person you were becoming, despite everything." As I signed the final paper, officially claiming my inheritance, Blackstone handed me a sealed envelope. "She asked me to give you this personally." Inside was a handwritten note in elegant script. "My dearest Olivia, if you're reading this, you've finally escaped their poison. I'm so proud of the woman you've become, working hard, staying kind despite their cruelty, pursuing your dreams of helping others through nursing. This money isn't just an inheritance, it's your freedom. Use it wisely, and remember, the best revenge is a life well lived. All my love, Grandmother Eleanor P.S. I've left something special for you at the Ritz-Carlton downtown. The presidential suite is yours for as long as you need it. By midnight, I was standing in the most luxurious hotel suite I'd ever seen, looking out over the glittering city lights. Marble bathrooms, silk curtains, a view that stretched to the ocean. The contrast to being homeless just hours earlier was surreal. But I wasn't done yet. Because Grandmother Eleanor was wrong about one thing, sometimes the best revenge isn't just living well. Sometimes it's showing people exactly what they threw away. I spent Christmas Day making calls. First to the best private investigator in the city. Then to a forensic accountant. If my family thought they could throw me away like garbage, they were about to learn exactly who they'd been living with all these years. Within 48 hours, I had a complete financial profile of the Carter family. And what I discovered was delicious. Dad's real estate company? Built on leveraged debt and about to collapse. Victoria's shopping addiction had maxed out 7 credit cards. Marcus's business ventures were actually elaborate scams that would land him in federal prison. And Isabella's lifestyle was funded entirely by identity theft. She'd been using stolen credit cards for months. But the most beautiful discovery? Dad had been desperately trying to secure a loan against the house to cover his debts. The same house he'd just kicked me out of. He needed $2.8 million by New Year's Eve, or he'd lose everything. And guess who now had the resources to buy that debt? December 30th, I walked into Dad's office wearing a custom Chanel suit and carrying a briefcase that cost more than his car. My hair was professionally styled, my makeup flawless, and I moved with the confidence that comes from knowing you hold all the power. Olivia? Dad's voice cracked when his secretary announced me. What are you doing here? And what are you wearing? I sat down across from his desk without being invited, crossing my legs elegantly. Hello, Richard. I'd stopped calling him Dad the moment he threw me out. I hear you're having some financial difficulties. His face went pale. How did you know about your impending bankruptcy? Your wife's gambling debts? Your son's fraud charges? Your daughter's shoplifting arrest from last week? I smiled sweetly. Money talks, Richard. And I have a lot of it now. I opened my briefcase and pulled out a folder thick with documents. I purchased all your outstanding debts. The house, the business, Victoria's credit cards, even Marcus's student loans. As of this morning, your family owes me $4.2 million. Dad's hand shook as he opened the folder. This is impossible. You're a waitress. You don't have this kind of money. Waitress? Oh, Richard. I laughed, a sound like crystal breaking. I'm Eleanor Morrison's sole heir. You remember Eleanor, don't you? My grandmother, who you told me was dead? The color drained from his face completely. Eleanor died months ago. There was no will, there was a very detailed one. $57 million, Richard. All mine. The irony is exquisite, don't you think? You threw away the richest person in your family. I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a whisper. Here's what's going to happen. You have until midnight tomorrow, New Year's Eve, to pay me back in full, or I foreclose on everything. The house, the business, all of it. Olivia, please. We're family, family? I stood up, towering over his desk. Family doesn't throw a daughter onto the street on Christmas Eve. Family doesn't choose favorites. Family doesn't forbid a child from knowing her grandmother. I gathered my papers, preparing to leave. Oh, and Richard? I'll be hosting a New Year's Eve party tomorrow night. At the house. My house, once you default, you're all invited to watch me celebrate. That night, Victoria called me 17 times. Marcus sent threatening texts that I forwarded directly to the FBI. Isabella showed up at my hotel, sobbing, begging me to be reasonable. But I was done being reasonable. I was done being the family doormat. New Year's Eve arrived like Judgment Day. At 11:58 p.m., I stood on the front steps of the Carter mansion, now my mansion, watching as moving trucks carried out their belongings. The same steps where they'd thrown me out exactly 1 week earlier. Victoria stumbled past me, her designer clothes wrinkled, her perfect facade finally cracking. "You've destroyed us," she hissed. "We have nothing." "You have exactly what you gave me," I replied calmly. "Nothing." Marcus was in handcuffs, being led to a police car. Turns out the FBI had been investigating his schemes for months, and my evidence had sealed his fate. Isabella sobbed in the backseat of a taxi, her shoplifting charges having made her unemployable at any decent retailer. And Dad? He stood beside his car, looking older than his 62 years. "I never told you about Eleanor because I was afraid," he said quietly. "Afraid you'd choose her over us." "You're right," I nodded. "I would have. Because she loved me unconditionally, and you never did." As the clock struck midnight, fireworks exploded over Beverly Hills. But the real celebration was just beginning. I converted the mansion into a foundation for homeless youth, naming it the Eleanor Morrison House. Marcus got 3 years in federal prison. Victoria filed for bankruptcy and moved back in with her elderly mother. Isabella was working at a fast food restaurant, finally learning what real work felt like. And Dad? He moved into a studio apartment and got a job as a night security guard. The man who'd thrown me out for being unsuccessful was now earning minimum wage while I ran a multi-million-dollar charitable empire. But here's the twist that makes this story perfect. 6 months later, I discovered that grandmother Eleanor had been secretly funding my college education all along. Those financial aid packages that covered my tuition? They came from her. The anonymous scholarship that paid for my nursing school? Her again. She'd been taking care of me my entire life, even when Dad forbade contact. Every opportunity I'd had to better myself, every chance to escape that toxic house, it was all her. The woman my father had painted as bitter and vengeful was actually an angel who'd been protecting me from the shadows. And the most beautiful part? She'd included a clause in her will that I only discovered later. If Dad had ever allowed her to have a relationship with me while she was alive, I would have inherited everything immediately upon her death. His cruelty hadn't just cost him a daughter. It had cost him $57 million. Today, I'm Dr. Olivia Morrison. I legally changed my name to honor my grandmother. I run 3 hospitals, 2 foundations, and a scholarship program for kids from broken homes. I live in the mansion sometimes, but I bought properties all over the world. And my family? Victoria works at a department store cosmetics counter. Marcus is still in prison. Isabella married a man twice her age for his money, only to discover he was deeper in debt than Dad ever was. And Richard? He sends me a Christmas card every year, always with the same message, "I'm sorry." I never respond. Because some betrayals are unforgivable. Some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. They thought they were throwing away their burden that Christmas Eve. Instead, they threw away their fortune. The girl they called worthless is now worth more than they could ever dream of. And the family that left me with nothing? They're the ones with nothing now. Sometimes karma doesn't just knock on your door at midnight. Sometimes it moves impermanently. Ending twist: The revelation that grandmother Eleanor had been secretly supporting Olivia all along, and that the father's cruelty cost him the entire inheritance.